All right, welcome back to the second half of our first day. And we are going to be learning a little bit more about the Edwards Aquifer Authority. And you know, it's not very often that we get to talk about this particular district outside of the context of big legal suits. So now that that's all in the past, we get to focus on, and we're in your backyard, we thought we'd get to learn about the extraordinary array of programs and resources. And if you are checking your emails, you'll notice that a Tag Monthly email just went out that featured their abandoned well plugging program as well. So be sure to look at that. So with that, I'm going to introduce our series of speakers that are here to help us learn about the EAA beyond the courts. With us, we have Roland Ruiz, General Manager of the Edwards Aquifer Authority. We have Marc Friberg over there on the far end, Executive Director of External and Regulatory Affairs. And then Marc Hamilton, Executive Director of Aquifer Management Services. So let's welcome them this afternoon. And Roland, I'll invite you up. Maybe. Hold on. Technical issues. All right.
There we go.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Sarah. I also want to thank Steve Walthour for way back when, a few months ago, extending the invitation to us to be here. Steve goes back, way back in history with the EAA, and so good to see him here today. I also, before I get started, want to acknowledge a few other folks that are here with us from the agency. Our chairman, Luana Buckner. I think Carol Patterson, another board member, may be here. Ron Walton, and then Deb Carrington is back there finding her seat. I want to acknowledge them for their leadership and support of everything that we do. I need all the support I can get because I'm not that smart. 6 years ago, for some reason, I thought it was a good idea to become the general manager of the Edwards Aquifer Authority. And as Sarah alluded to, our history, a history that was rife with conflict and crisis and issues that far exceeded my mental capacities, I took the position anyway. And I'm very glad that I have, because along the way, what I've learned is that it takes a lot of really, really good, smart people to lead an agency like this. And I have the good fortune of surrounding myself with people just like that. And two of them are here on the dais with me today, and you will be hearing from them in just a little bit. Just to give you some background, I'm going to kind of paint a picture for you, give you some context to what you're going to hear as the two Marcs come up in just a moment and share with you some specifics of our programs. As I said, our story often has been one of conflict, of crisis and uncertainty. But today we find ourselves at a different place. We're at a crossroads of opportunity is how I see it. The opportunity to bridge a tumultuous past to a promising future, and that's exactly what we're doing. The bridge that will connect yesterday to tomorrow is one of trust. You know, and you might be surprised that I use the word trust. It's not any scientific, magic silver bullet or anything like that, but it's something as simple as trust. That's the bridge we're going to be building and we're going to be talking about today. That bridge will lead us towards our legacy, which we have the opportunity to define in today where we are as an agency. So there have been some things changing around us. What hasn't changed is our mission. And what you see on the screen there is a succinct verbiage that captures that mission. To manage, enhance, and protect the Edwards Aquifer system. We're proposing to change not what we do, but how we do it. How we manage, how we enhance or optimize, and how we protect the system toward the end goal of what I said earlier of what we call building trust, or what I like to call it shared value. Shared value around the system and around the mission of the EAA. We build trust from the inside out. And so when I first took this position 6 years ago, we found ourselves in the midst of a core values process internally. The idea was that if we're going to change the world around us, we better take a good look at ourselves first. And if we need to change ourselves, let's start there. So let's identify what we are, who we are, and how we're going to go about working with each other within our organization. So we revisited the why of what we do. And I think Senator Perry's talked about the why. The why is very important to us as well. We identified the core values of stewardship, integrity, respect, professionalism, collaboration, and science. And that's what we hang our hat on. We have been doing that for the last 6 years. Those were not words that I came up with myself. They're not words that the management group came up with. It was an agency-wide process engaging every single person that works in our agency to contribute to that, and that's where we ended up. So it was a long and tedious process, and we're still in the midst of that process, but I will tell you that lasting change, the change that we're talking about, where you're impacting an entire region of the state of Texas, takes time. We're making the big turn, like turning an ocean liner, not a speedboat, is the reference I often use with our staff. Our challenges today are very much like those that we faced from the beginning. And what you see in front of you is a map of our jurisdictional area. It's a vast region consisting of a diverse and sometimes, if not oftentimes, competing assortment of stakeholder interests. From the west, where there's irrigation, agricultural interests that are very long and well established, to the east, where there are spring communities and interests, and in the middle, where there's the largely urbanized interests around San Antonio. So from Uvalde County to Hays County and points in between, that's our playing field. And underlying it all, there's a growing demand for water fueled by a booming population that's changing the landscape of the region demographically, economically, and culturally. And so that's the backdrop to what to where we work today. And today, we regulate about 1,200 permit holders, representing in any given year about 2,000 or more permits that they hold for the benefit of around 2 million people that currently reside within our jurisdictional region. And they use the Edwards as their primary, if not only, source of water. While those numbers may change in the future, what will not change is the volume of water available to them from the aquifer. 572,000 acre-feet remains the cap on withdrawals from the aquifer. So how we maximize use of that water becomes increasingly important as demand rises and resources are stressed by droughts. That's nothing that y'all have not heard or you yourselves are not contending with wherever you are managing your resources. So our ultimate goal through the building of shared value around the mission is as it has always really been, and that's certainty. We're in pursuit of greater certainty around the resource. We achieve that certainty through reliability and sustainability in the resource itself and in the systems and programs that help us do just that, to manage and protect it. What does that mean for us? It means protecting the resource through partnerships, optimizing the resource through collaborative and efficient solutions, and becoming even more transparent through communication, through sharing of data and streamlining processes for ease of access so that our regulated community and our partner agencies can be as well informed in their processes as we are. We must embrace the ideal that we can achieve greater good, greater certainty by leveraging the success of the past in the midst of all the turmoil that we've experienced. There's success that comes from that. We need to leverage that success to build new relationships that incentivize the desired outcomes that we're so much after, and that compel our constituency, the people that we regulate and we work with day to day, compel them to self-regulate. In that way, we don't have to play Big Brother as much as we have in the past. For more context at this point, I'm going to relinquish the podium here to Marc Hamilton and invite him to come up and share with you what this approach means to his particular areas of responsibility in the aquifer management and science area.
Well, thank you, Roland, and good afternoon, everyone. So my goal here is to try to share a little bit about what our Aquifer Management Services Division does. And we're basically responsible for most of the science and the research, as well as some of the aquifer protection tasks. So with that, if we look at the slide that's up now, it talks about monitoring. Well, if we point back to our mission statement to manage, enhance, and protect the aquifer system, part of that process requires quite a bit of monitoring. If we don't monitor the health of the system, if we don't have those vital signs in front of us to see how it's doing, then it's very difficult for us to accomplish our mission statement. So as far as monitoring goes, there's a number of things that we're involved in when it comes to monitoring different components of the system. And I don't want to bore you with too many details, but some of the things that we've recently focused on is how do we collect all this data without growing our staff? You know, we have to be cognizant of our management fee, but we still need to collect the data. So we're moving more and more towards this telemetry approach where we can collect data remotely and staff don't have to spend as much time in the field. So effectively, we can collect more data with fewer people. So if you look at this slide here, you can see that there are 4 of our big data collection or monitoring efforts are shown here. So we have 19 weather stations across the region. Well, the value of those weather stations is more than just measuring rainfall or temperature or soil moisture. It's more about being able to understand, well, what's the evapotranspiration doing across the region? That, oddly enough, is a parameter for a lot of modeling that is hard to find. Historically, ET data or evapotranspiration data is not well published across this region. So that little set of 19 weather stations provides us about, I don't know, 7 million or so data points every year, or data records. We also have some index wells you're probably familiar with. If you're local, you would be familiar with the J17 index well, and then there's the Uvalde index well, J27. Those wells are on telemetry systems, but we're adding a significant portion of our water level monitoring network to a telemetry type system so we can monitor the health of the system more or less in real time. We also have a fairly elaborate rain gauge network that is transmitted, that data is transmitted to our office through telemetry system. And then we have some water quality instrumentation that we have in place at the spring groups, Comal and San Marcos Springs, that measure some really important parameters for the species. It measures dissolved oxygen and turbidity and conductivity and temperature and pH. The uniqueness of that data set is that it's now several years old. We have a data point every 15 minutes at 7 locations at those springs, and that's been very valuable for the biologist. I'm a hydrogeologist, so I don't really understand things that haven't been dead for about 30 million years, but they tell me that that's really valuable data. So what else do we do with that data? What value is it? Because it's not free to collect. So in our opinion, if we don't have value with the data we collect or the monitoring that we do, then there's not much point in doing it. So if you look at this map, I mentioned our 74 rain gauges across the region. Well, those rain gauges have been really valuable in helping us to understand rainfall patterns region-wide. Why does that matter? Well, if you look at this map, this is the total rainfall every 6